The Handler Protocol, Episode 13, The Return. You survived becoming someone else. Now return to yourself. My name is S. I am the handler, and after everything, the trauma, the survival, the emotional warfare, the masks, the hypervigilance, the collapse, the reconstruction, the healing, there comes one final stage most people never expect: the return. Not returning to who you were before the damage. That version no longer exists. The return is something deeper than that. It is the moment human beings stop organizing their entire existence around survival. The moment they stop introducing themselves through pain. The moment they stop identifying only through trauma. The moment they stop seeing themselves as broken. Because eventually, healing reaches a point where survival is no longer the mission. Living becomes the mission. And that transition terrifies people, because for many human beings, survival became identity. Pain became familiarity. Hypervigilance became personality. Chaos became emotional comfort. And when those things finally begin disappearing, silence arrives. Stillness arrives. Space arrives. And inside that silence, people are finally forced to meet themselves honestly, without the armor, without the emotional performance, without the identity built around suffering. That is the return. The return to self-awareness, to emotional honesty, to humanity, to peace, to softness without weakness, to boundaries without hatred, to love without self-abandonment, to emotional intelligence without emotional suppression, to existing without constantly preparing for emotional destruction. Because maybe healing was never about becoming perfect. Maybe healing was about becoming whole. Whole enough to stop punishing yourself for what survival forced you to become. Whole enough to stop apologizing for needing rest. Whole enough to stop confusing emotional numbness with strength. Whole enough to finally believe peace does not have to be earned through suffering. And maybe that is the greatest lie trauma ever tells human beings, that survival is all they deserve. But you were never designed only to survive. You were designed to connect, to feel safe, to feel seen, to rest, to love, to create, to exist without constantly carrying the emotional weight of every painful thing that ever happened to you. That is why the Handler Protocol was never truly about emotional control. It was about emotional restoration. Teaching human beings how to stabilize themselves enough to finally reconnect with who they are underneath survival mode. Because trauma fragments identity, healing reintegrates it. And eventually, the goal is no longer becoming emotionally invulnerable. The goal becomes becoming emotionally free. Free enough to stop performing. Free enough to stop surviving every relationship. Free enough to stop fearing peace. Free enough to finally exist without constantly needing to defend yourself from life. That is the return. Not back to innocence, back to humanity. And maybe the strongest people are not the people who never broke. Maybe they are the people who broke, rebuilt themselves, and still chose softness afterward, still chose connection, still chose empathy, still chose love, still chose humanity. That is strength, and that is who the handler was always meant to become. My name is S, and this was the Handler Protocol. Truth, pressure, transformation.